Welcome to another edition of Community Cop. My name is Michael Grace, co-founding member of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. And as of now, Noel Leader, there's a possibility he might be here today, but certainly Father Lucas is on community cop assignment, completing ministerial duties, as well as Julian Harper, community cop assignment. So hopefully Noel Leader will make it. He's on assignment right now, but he said he might be able to make it in the studio and catch part of the show. In any event, welcome to this edition. There's quite a few things going on, but we will start with, as we normally do, with what happened at some junction in our history this time of the year. And certainly we'll start real quickly that the New Orleans Tribune, that's the first black newspaper, started 7/21/1864. You know, can you imagine during slavery time, Black Daily? Now, certainly those of us who know the show know that we always talk about Freedom's Journal, but that was not a daily newspaper. That started in 1827. And but this one, certainly many years later in New Orleans, but it was productive, and it had certainly just about a 5-year run from 1864 to 1868, giving a lot of information with respect to our conditions, speaking our truth, and that was done by what's the brother's name? Louis Charles Rundanes, and a good brother who started the newspaper, and we should always be mindful of that, especially in a day where there's hardly any black media outlets like we used to have. Certainly we had not only top of the line, newspapers here in New York, but Tony Brown's Journal, Like It Is, Gil Noble, McCreary Report, Positively Black, Black News. We had so many different voices, and of course we had Night Talk and so many other things. That we had a drum that 24 hours a day, literally, we could speak our own truths and get the word out to our people as to what was going on. But there's been a diminution of that, and certainly it's not accidental. Next thing is this is the anniversary, 7/17/2014, of Eric Garner being violently, savagely killed in plain sight. I'm sure by now all of us have seen the video footage of Eric Garner being killed. And by the way, Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, made public statements over the last few days, certainly doubling down on the requesting that NYPD fire the individuals, police officers. There were 8 that participated in the murder of Eric Garner. Now, some of you believe that it's only one, and that's Pantaleo, Daniel Pantaleo, but it was a group effort. It was, Pantaleo was the person who did the illegal chokehold, but all of those were there together. Nobody stopped them, and certainly there was one supervisor present. As to now, nothing has been done. NYPD has now made an official statement that they are waiting on the Justice Department. I don't see where they ever wait for the Justice Department. In other situations, there's no such thing as waiting for the Justice Department. However, in this particular situation, they're saying they're going to wait to the end of August. And if the Justice Department does not come in with charges, then they will execute hearings and discipline the officers themselves. One has nothing to do with the other, and certainly it doesn't take you 4 years to discipline officers. You know full well what you're doing. There's a reluctance on your part to discipline those officers for murder. You don't equate the life of a black man that important that you to discipline 8 police officers for his murder. And that's because you lack a value system relative to African blood being spilled. But certainly if black cops had did that to a white individual who was not in the commission of a crime, you would have disciplined them. You would have taken their jobs. And I dare say they would have had to have been charged in criminal court. Not only, we're not even talking about hearings, we're talking about in criminal court. So certainly in that fake grand jury that Donovan had set up did not come back with the true bill, an indictment of Pantaleo, but that's the way you wanted it. And that's why you ran out of that office and now have a congressional seat, because that was your mission. And obviously the people of Staten Island stood with you and voted you in as a congressperson. So white supremacy reigns supreme again in that regard. But I would just say since we were active in that situation at that time, and I remember vividly that the National Action Network, led by Reverend Sharpton, took the front position, and they had the family, basically, Eric Garner's family, and they had everybody looking towards D.C., to the Justice Department in Washington, D.C., as opposed to challenging the mayor who they helped get in office. They could have challenged the mayor who was not running, who had just came in and was not running at that time for re-election, but should have challenged him and pressed him to fire those officers, and certainly should have made it an issue with the governor who was running for re-election, as he's running now. At that time, he was running for re-election. They didn't say one peep. They kept the attention off of Andrew Cuomo. That's what the National Action Network, Andrew Cuomo, who's a very, very close friend of Reverend Sharpton. They made it crystal clear. They kept the attention off him and focused in on the Justice Department that has no history of coming in and arresting police officers, that especially here in New York, the strongest police union in the country. So this was a smokescreen by the National Action Network, and if you don't agree with me, then fine. Call when we open the phones, which we will do in about 20 minutes. We'll do that. We'll open up the phones. But in any event, you know, certainly to the best of our ability, we feel the pain of Gwen Carr, who lost her son, and he was not, again, in the commission of a crime. Every time you read something, it says he was selling Lucy's. He was not selling Lucy's at that time. It's an outright lie. He actually had just broke up a fight between two individuals, so he was playing peacekeeper. He was playing brother. So he was not in the commission of selling Lucy's at that time. So there was no reason, no justifiable reason for the police officers to manhandle him that way and ultimately take his life, and then create an environment where even EMS did not do what they would normally do to resuscitate the person, and consequently they got hit with charges and they were disciplined. But the police officers who in fact took his life, nothing has happened to them. Oh, so let's begin this week's some current events, and then maybe we can open up the phones early today if Noel doesn't come in, and certainly I'll give you a chance. We can enter some dialogue. But in any event, wanted to just say that Gwen Carr is fighting for justice for her son, as did Erica, who the daughter, you know, Eric Garner's daughter, Erica Garner, who untimely lost her life. But she was the one who was on the battlefield. And the reason why I say the National Action Network betrayed that family is because they were not in the courtroom for Ramsey. They were not, and he was the one that had the critical footage that made it a case anyway. The reason why it went all over the country and actually all over the world is because Ramsey Order was the one who did the video footage. The National Action Network had it on lockdown, had all of its members, made sure they did not support Ramsey order, stayed out of the courtroom, all the court appearances he had. They were the ones who initially introduced him to the world, put him on Broadway, and the police had a target. And so when they came in and swooped in on him, they were given a clear shot at Ramsey order without any blockage in any way, no protection at all from National Action Network. That was the height of irresponsibility, and they know better, and they have legal counsel. They knew, you had to protect that person once he was introduced as the person that brought forth the footage that made them all change their reports, their official reports, and change the whole essence of what happened. So in any event, Gwen Carr is looking for justice for her son, which she has the right to do. Unfortunately, at that time, she did not press the NYPD. She did not press de Blasio administration. As a matter of fact, I'll just give you this much, that we were at a dinner at Simotep, and she referred to the mayor as a good man. And when I got up to speak, I said he was not a good man, and that he is giving protection to the people who killed your son. He could have fired them. He could have very easily had all of those officers fired. I reminded her of that. Over dinner, I reminded her that. If you go to the tapes of Simotep, I said that. I said it publicly at that time because, you have to tell the truth. And as you know, I'm a prisoner of truth and had to say what actually happened. I said that to her, and she couldn't disagree. But I told her. So now she's calling for the NYPD to do now what we felt they should have done then, and we made that crystal clear. But she was being misled, and that's nothing unusual for Reverend Sharpton and his antics with the National Action Network. So in any event, big ups to her for continuing the struggle, though, in any event, for justice for her son. The U.S. Navy has finally lifted its ban on African locks, which you call dreadlocks, for women. This decision makes the Navy the last branch of the military to stop these aggressive regulations that prohibited the so-called dreadlocks. And so they joined now the Marines, Army, and the Air Force in loosening its regulations. This was something that was reported by the Chief Naval Operations Admiral John Richardson, saying that this makes the Navy more formidable and inclusive. Well, they should have done that already. Why should black women have to look like white women? They should be their own beautiful selves and have their own hairstyles, and it should not be emulating on white women. So this was done, and this was done actually during this term where Trump is in. Now, the other three armed forces had changed their policies during the Obama administration. Now, the Obama administration didn't come down hard on West Point when they actually held up the graduation and was threatening to suspend over a dozen sisters who just had a clenched fist in a photo. That's all they did. It wasn't anything said revolutionary, nothing of the sort. Their graduation was held up just for having a clenched fist in the air, where normally you and your group, your class, your classmates, you take a host of different photos in different positions, standing positions, sitting positions, and the like. You do that and you see all sorts of photos. What made the clenched fist so ominous? They didn't say black power, even though that shouldn't be ominous either, because you see all sorts of machinations from white soldiers when they're graduating from West Point. But they targeted those sisters, and actually, I'm sure that had Obama not been in office at that time, it could have been a little serious for them, but they were able to graduate and get their assignments after graduation which was good. But again, the Navy was the last ones to get on board, because they used to have an advertisement saying you can be black in Navy too. They were the most racist of all the armed services, and certainly the easiest one to have always attain a career out of was the Army, and the other ones were certainly a little harder, and certainly the Air Force. But the Navy was the one who stayed the whitest of them all, and so now they've come on board and allowed sisters to wear a nice hairstyle. Secondly, in Indiana, a black man, Shane Holland, was forced to leave his pool complex. Here's another case where this brother lived in this housing complex, kind of exclusive, and you had to have a key to use the pool. He had a key, was utilizing the pool. A white woman comes up to him and questioning him on it. Well, lo and behold, she's an off-duty cop. She didn't identify herself as such, just came to him so aggressive, asking who was he, what apartment did he work in, and questioning on did he live in that complex. Well, he was answering her questions, but didn't want to give his exact apartment number to her because she was just so aggressive with it. But he pulled out his key, showed her the key to get in, that got him into the locked out, the fenced off area so that he can get into the pool. She snatched it out of his hand. Can you imagine that? Off-duty cop just lives there like he does and took it upon herself to take his key from him. Of course, the manager came at that point, and she still told him he had to leave that area, which he did. And now he can't imagine, he can't countenance the fact that he was racially profiled. He should have made that an issue with the manager. She should have been her department, which is the Metropolitan Indiana Police Department. They should have been contacted, and she should have been disciplined by that police department for what she did as a civilian. Once he properly identified himself and showed the key and said that he lives in the complex, and of course the manager did come there, that should have been the end of it. She took it upon herself to tell him that he had to leave, and he complied. Most of us would not have left. We would have went into the pool, but he's scared, and she picked the right one. I know many of us would have gone on in the pool and went about our business and would have put in a formal complaint with that manager and would have made a complaint at her police precinct. But he went on radio with the thing in any event. But is confused in 2018 about racial profiling. That's amazing that he can't understand that he was racially profiled in 2018. But so it remains to be seen what's going to happen. But that happened in Indiana, by the way. Another thing, another person who was racially profiled. This is another brother who at work. This brother, DeAndre Adams, he works for the Obion County Highway Department, and he was racially profiled. This is in Union City, Tennessee, by the way. Now, what happened with him, he was looking for some materials in a file cabinet. He found a manual on white supremacy in the file cabinet by accident, and it was talking about how to control black people, how to house them, how to kill them, how to isolate them, a whole host of different things to do to exploit and kill black people. It was in the file cabinet, and he found it by accident. Now, he showed it to an immediate supervisor. The supervisor said, "Don't worry about it, I'll take care of it." He saw the supervisor throw it in the garbage. So he retrieved it from the garbage. Now, when he showed the material to someone else, well, of course, the supervisor was insensitive about it, and at the same time, he doesn't understand the racist attitudes because he's been working there 7 years, but he's always gotten comments. They've always said demeaning things to him. He's been called the N-words. He's been treated bad over the 7 years that he worked there, but he still could not understand this whole manual on white supremacy that he accidentally discovered in a file cabinet. Now, maybe a part of his problem is that he does have a white girlfriend, and so those remarks over the years might have been the result of him having a white girlfriend and they knowing about it and not liking it. In any event, Neely Fuller says that a black man that sleeps white not only cannot be trusted, he's docile and he's been neutralized. So this is another brother that's been neutralized by having a white girlfriend, can't understand racism in his own work site, and he's been there all the years, been taking all of this stuff, and finally was man enough to put in a lawsuit. So he's put in a lawsuit against the Highway Department there in Union City, Tennessee, and it remains to be seen what will happen. But again, confusion. One other one real quick, and then we'll see. Maybe we'll get to the phones early. I'm going to try. I'm going to try. One other thing, there was a homegoing service. And during the homegoing service, a person was hugging another person in their grief, and they knocked over a chalice. And when they knocked over a chalice, the priest who was in charge of St. Mary's Catholic Church, he jumped up and shouted, "There will be no funeral, no repast. Everyone get the hell out of my church." Now, this happened in Washington, D.C., where he just went ballistic because one chalice, and a chalice is just a drinking goblet. It's a mug, a cup, so to speak. That's all it is. And obviously, they have those kind of decorations at Catholic college, at Catholic churches. So in any event, the priest, when it was knocked over, he started screaming on a black family. By the way, it was a black funeral, and he was there and just went crazy and screamed on everybody, demanded that they leave. And the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C. said that in no way reflects the way they feel about black people, and certainly the way they feel that all the Lord's people should be respected, and that's fundamental. They say that that's fundamental to their church. So they have not suspended that priest. They have not disciplined him at all. But they said that God, has respect and dignity for everybody. So so should the priest. So they didn't in any way say anything was going to happen to him. Now, I'm just saying that in light of the things that are going on, because if you have a priest, the moment something happened, he goes ballistic. You have a black man that that's can't even go to use the pool in this complex. And speaking of black men, this is similar to what Dylan Roof did. Just to go into church and to take advantage of the people that were in there. And these people, church people just want to believe and pray to God, and just have a good time at church. And he was able to sneak in there and to lay wait and then shoot all of them, including the pastor of the church. And, of course, the people apologize. And that just shows you, how do you apologize before someone even is deserving of, or even wants you to feel sorry for them and apologize in any way? But I'm just saying that because it just shows you a fundamental weakness among our people, that we would do that. And I'm saying that because last thing, and we'll get to the phones right after that. Last thing, just want to say that there's a lot of discussion around the Emmett Till case supposedly being opened up now. Now, if the Emmett Till case is being opened, somebody out there might be happy, but just remember, the Emmett Till case goes back to 1955. Now, the individuals who did it, they're dead now. So you would say, why would they open the case? They're not going to arrest the woman who several years ago admitted that she lied about Emmett Till and that she lied in the courtroom about the whole situation and that he did not make any denigrating remarks to her. They're not going to arrest her. So why are they opening the case? I think it's just to confuse us. Certainly, this Justice Department that's led by Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions is nowhere in the world he's going to put a white woman in jail for Emmett Till, something that happened 62, 63 years ago. So that's not going to happen. That case is 63 years old, and they're not going to reopen that case just to put a white woman in jail. Now, were there some other individuals there? Yes. The facts are, the reason why two of them were charged, even though it didn't go anywhere, was because two white men went into the house, into Mose Wright's house, looking for Emmett Till. And when they found him, they went room to room and found him because they opened the door. Emmett Till's family, the grandfather and his uncle, opened up the door and let them in, and they went room to room till they found them in the third room, snatched them out of there, and Mose Wright even asked them, begged them, and said, I don't know what he did, but whatever he did, let me beat him now. I'll beat him just on your word alone for whatever he did, and so he'll never do that again. And they told him to shut up and asked him how old he was and said, if you want to live any longer, a year longer, just shut up. And they took Emmett Till out of the house, never to be seen again. Now, there was other people outside, including the white woman, who identified him. So, yes, it was other people involved, and they went on and took him to another location and beat him and tortured him before ultimately killing him. You can put up the telephone number now. They killed him outright, and after beating and torturing him, they eventually put the .45 to his head and shot him. He looked so bad. They had beat him so bad and tortured him before he died that actually you couldn't even recognize him. The only reason, maybe Till, who I'd met several times, the only reason why you could recognize him was because his father's ring. He had on his father's ring. His father had died in the service in World War II, or the Korean War, and so he passed, and Mamie Till gave Emmett Till the ring. So that's the only reason why she was able to recognize him. His head was grotesque and twice his normal size. And if you ever saw that picture, and big ups to Jet Magazine, who had the picture and showed you thousands of people, lines around the block, waiting to get into to that funeral. So in any event, they're allegedly reopening the case. I think it's a smokescreen just to confuse our people. They know that black women has been tilting elections lately all over the country, affecting the outcomes. So, and black people in general, but especially black women, have been very active voters, and certainly the midterm elections are coming up. So I think in any event that that it is a smokescreen, it's not justice, and there's no way in the world Jeff Sessions will lock up a white woman for something that she did 63 years ago. That's not going to happen. He wouldn't do it if she did it yesterday. So that's not going to happen, especially not in terms of for a black person. But in any event, let's get to the phones. Callers, the number's up. Those that know the number, you can call in now. I can't tell from the board whether you called in or not, but first caller, welcome to Community Cop. I can't tell.
Yes, Brother Mike, Kareem from Harlem. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, brother.
Yes, sir. And my hotep, here we go again, brother. We see that this so-called president of ours have been inspiring some of these attacks upon black people.
Yes.
And the thing is, the shame about it is our people voted for him, and they still believe in him. Now, if you remember, Mike, I said on this show before that what he did is treason. Now you see, after the white man says today that he committed treason, now black folks going to believe it. But the thing is, brother, is that we have a blueprint. We have a blueprint to do what's right. Elijah Muhammad, Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, do for self, right? Take care of your own people, and the first law of nature is self-preservation.
Yes.
So what we got to do is come together as a people, right, and want the same thing we want for our brothers and sisters, and start putting that into practice.
That's right.
Because we are the only one, Brother Mike, that's going to be able to help our situation. If we can't come to that understanding, then I don't know what the problem is. But y'all brothers are doing a great job, and I thank Allah for blessing us to be able to see some of these things and try to impart this to some of our people.
Thank you, brother.
Keep doing a great job, and may Allah bless you.
Thank you, brother. Alaikum salam. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Brother Ray, how you doing, Big Mike?
Hey.
Going at it alone.
It's
this
fine.
Week without your co-partners. Listen,
they're here in spirit. They're here in spirit. Go ahead.
You mean to tell me still in 2018 that people can't understand white supremacy? It's just a shame that they can't understand, and maybe this colorblind society is still in full effect.
Well,
even though all the stuff that happens, maybe this colorblind society is in full effect. And number two, Mike, it's a snow job. To bring up the Emmett Till case is a snow job, and I think we're falling for it hook, line, and sinker.
Yes.
I believe we're falling for it hook, line, and sinker. It's a snow job. Comment number three, a young kid was murdered in Brownsville. I guess this past week, I believe he was not the intended target. I have yet to hear any elected officials come out of the woodwork. I have yet to see anything. I'm hoping that they could start rounding up all the people involved in murdering this young kid, but I haven't seen nothing, as in the case with the Dominican cats killing the innocent guy. Let's see if something happens with this murder, because they never come out of the woodwork when we murder, and they should round all them and responsible. Let's see what happens.
Well, you're right about that, Brother Ray, and we need to round up all those elected officials. With the possible exception of Charles Barron, everybody else needs to be rounded up and talk to, maybe in the shed, take them in the back in the shed and talk to them, because they sure need some talking to. They are horrible. And this is a town that Adam Clayton Powell made his mark in, and yet look at them. They don't have one elected official that can even touch what Adam Clayton Powell did. He was more powerful than the whole congressional Black Caucus. It's just deplorable what you see and what they stand for, what they refuse to stand up for with what's going on in our community. But next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Next caller, where you calling from?
Right.
Yes.
Hello?
Where you calling from?
Hello?
Go to the next caller. Next caller,
Peace,
welcome to
Brother
Community
Mike.
Cop.
How you doing?
All right, good. Where you calling
Brother Mike.
from? Go.
I can't hear you, Brother Mike. Must be something wrong with the phone.
Just keep talking. Just talk. I can hear you. Go ahead.
I don't hear you. Can you hear me, though?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go.
Brother Mike.
Brother, go. Just look at your phone. I'm giving you the signal. Go. Talk.
Okay. Brother Mike, this is what we're going to say. You was talking about Eric Emmett Till's case. And to me, that is tricknology of the highest kind. And
Yes.
we are foolish, and the so-called Emmett Till, and it's tricknology, it's trick of the highest kind. And when you look at, the so-called nigger, I call them the so-called nigger who are being misled by the house niggas and the field niggas. Because I'm looking at Eric Gardner case, and the city didn't want to take care of it, the state didn't want to take care of it, nor the federal government. So now they want to have an in-house
reprimand. Yes, well, brother, we're going to have to move on. Try to call back because you having a problem with that line. Next
so what's happening now?
Next caller, welcome to Community Cop.
Yeah, is this me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
This is Eddie. Are you on?
Yes, go.
Hello? This is Eddie.
Okay, the call.
Hello? This is Eddie?
Yes, go. Hello.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to say about, I read a strange article there in the Amsterdam News about all those immigrants being discharged from the United States Army. And most of them were part of the DACA program, which Donald Trump has eliminated. And then he is somehow shutting down the Caribbean agricultural workers. He's shutting that down. The brothers coming from Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, and Grenada. And he's forcing their wives to get a brand new H-2 visa. And I think what is happening is, like I said, Trump does not want any more people of color coming to this country anymore.
Well,
because they keep throwing you MS-13. It ain't about MS-13. It's black people coming to this country. That's why he's shutting America down. That's what's happening.
Got you. Let me respond to that real quick.
I'm out of here.
All right. To those who call, you have to listen to your phone. Don't listen to the TV. Now, Trump went on and told European countries, he was specifically talking to England, but all the white European countries anyway. He told them that they're losing their culture. That's a code word for saying you letting too many blacks into your country from all these various African countries and Caribbean countries. People are going to various European countries, and he's saying that it's bringing your culture down. You're losing your culture. That's a clarion call going across the white world that black people, and this is in fact what our great scholar Frances Cress Welsing, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, what she talked about, genetic annihilation. This is in fact what she was talking about. And so white supremacist organizations, if you go online, they are all saying that same message. So that's a message that the president hears loud and clear, to tell other white countries to stop letting black people into their countries, stop letting black men sleep with white women. And I agree with that for different reasons than the president. But in any event, because why would you why would you trust any black man that's sleeping with a white woman? That's any of them. And I know you can mention the Portiers and Belafontes and other people that gave money to the civil rights movement and the like. You don't trust them either. Any black man that's sleeping with a white woman, do not trust him, because if you put your life in his hands, you're going to lose your life. If you put your organization in his hands, that organization is going downhill. That's why I say then I use the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, accept your own and be yourself. Because if you accept somebody else's own and you have a white lens, and so your vision will be skewed. Everything will be white. You'll lose who you're supposed to be and not be the man you're supposed to be. So don't sleep with white women. Stay with your own. And if you have something other than an African aesthetic, and you think that somehow Europeans are more beautiful, then something's wrong with your mind. If you look at the dimensions and you look at the texture of a black woman and you look at a white woman and see beauty in her, you out of your mind, brother. You are out of your mind. And so you have to free your African mind and come back to your own and be the person you're supposed to be. So that's a reality. So when the president is saying that to the white world, he's saying the same thing that these dying of war, white supremacist militia organizations are saying, that Europe is dying because it's not making more white babies and black men are entering white women's bodies. And so they have a problem with that. Because funny, they've never had a problem with a white man raping black women, which they've done for centuries. I mean, 4 centuries here, 5 total if you want to look at straight from the African continent, bringing them to Caribbean countries. They had set up embankments in West Africa in the 1480s and the 1490s. They had their military machine set up there along the periphery of West Africa, and was had cannons at that time, muskets and the like. They had weapons at that time of mass destruction. So they were doing that then. So we're talking about 5 centuries of rape, white men raping black women, and yet they have no problem with that. And yet they have a problem with black men even having a white girlfriend. And I have problems with that for different reasons, but theirs is white supremacist. Ours is because you should be with your own. The next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Next caller, you're on air.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, this is Dr. Sebi. How you doing, Mike?
Good, brother. Talk. Listen to your phone, not the TV.
About how we was being technology with this materials, and why is it good at technology? Let me give you a perfect example, brother Mike. That one of their sons and daughters use the N-word on us. They discipline them, but yet they put them in a better position. However, they allow you and I and our daughters to make music, to do movies, and to stand up comedy, call ourselves bees and ends in front of the whole world. Now you want to kill each other.
You're right.
And that's sad that we as a people cannot see the technology of this devil. That we should not be doing this to ourselves on behalf of them. I make it perfectly clear to the people when I talk to them. If you call yourself bees and ends, you are coming from a mindset of a slave.
Look, you know.
I told my daughter that I told her to marry a white man. And the fan hit the fan, you got to ask yourself the question, whose father are you going to kill? Are you going to kill me for them, or are you going to kill them for us?
Well,
I had to make that perfect clear to my daughter so she understands it.
Well, certainly, and let your daughter know everything is political. The fact is, even in entertainment, Michael Jackson had a lyric in a song, "Don't Jew me." In other words, don't exploit me. He had to remove that from that song. And certainly Public Enemy, they came down on Public Enemy for remarks they made in a song. In a song. Yeah. Public Enemy. You know, they
came down on them?
Yeah, and Professor Griff eventually had to leave the group.
I didn't know that.
And the fact is, Arnold Schwarzenegger in a movie killed an entire precinct. But it was no politics there. So you can't say F the police. You can't say things about the police in a song, yet in a movie, you can kill a whole precinct. And the white man don't say nothing. Why? Because it was another white man that did it. And then there was another movie, Assault on Precinct 13 or whatever it was, where a police station was attacked.
Yo, Mike, can I put some
So-
pictures real quick?
Go, brother, quickly.
You know when that sister Monique made that degrading movies about us? They gave her all kinds of rewards and accolades.
Oh, you got to tell me what movie.
She was a talent one day. I caught her on a night. I don't watch stand-up comedy, but I caught her, and she talked about TLC, but then she called Barbara Bush a B. This is the 2001, 2002.
Okay.
And when it got back to the White House, look at her now. She can't even get a street job doing comedy.
Well,
She can't
okay.
even go on Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey got her own station. So when whiteys put it out there, Negroes get nervous.
Got you.
Thanks, brother. Like you. Love you, brother Mike.
Love you too, brother. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Listen to your phone, not the TV. Listen to the phone. Next caller. Go to the next caller. Go to the next caller.
Mike.
Yes.
Peace, brother Mike, calling from North Carolina.
Oh, brother, peace.
How you doing, good brother?
Good, man.
Good, excellent. You're doing an excellent job all by yourself.
Trying, man, trying.
No, you are succeeding. But still with the Eric Garner case, the brother that videotaped it, I believe he's still in jail.
That's
And he
correct.
get no
Ramsey
help.
Order, still in jail.
Still in jail. So if Sharpton and any other person that's supposed to be concerned with justice, they will look out for him. Because that's just a sad precedent for anybody that's going to be videotaping the police, that they then can become a target and become imprisoned, and then where's the help at?
Well, brother,
So that's a sign.
he's not for justice. And we can back that up. Anything 100 blacks in law enforcement say about Sharpton, challenge us and we will prove to you time and time again, the last thing on his mind is justice. He about getting paid. Him and that attorney Crump that goes all over the country collecting these checks. You know, no justice. They're not trying to put anybody in jail. None of these cops who kill people. They just trying to get a check from the city.
And that individual that was at that complex who wanted to use own pool
Yes.
from the complex, being stopped by that other resident who happened to be a police officer, she definitely found the right one to do that, pull that stunt.
Yes.
For real.
Yes.
Oh, man, I mean, we are under attack in so many ways. You know, our people just, they just...
And she snatched the key out of his hand. Took the keys from him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she definitely got the right one.
Yeah, she gonna pick the wrong one.
Uh-huh. But
You
anyway,
know.
good brother, man. Keep up the great work, man. We'll get somebody else a spot, man. Love you, brother. And the struggle continues. Peace.
That's our strong brother Priest calling all the way from North Carolina. Strong brother, always a great supporter of United African Movement. Strong brother came up here for Sister Leola's memorial. Love you, brother, man. Stay strong. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling
my name is
from?
Bonnie. Hi, I'm from the Bronx.
Oh, good. All right, Bonnie, good.
Hey.
I'm glad we in the Bronx live. Go ahead.
Yes. Hey, I just wanted to say one thing, because I am a young black woman myself.
Go ahead, sister. Go
What I
ahead.
really wanted to put out there is because we know what is going on in this world today.
Go
What
ahead.
makes it sad for us and our race is because young black mothers like myself need to educate our young black children so they can grow up knowing what is out there and in store for them, so they can be prepared to protect themselves. We already know how people are treating our color. What we need to do is come together as a united nation. And
How would you suggest that? Tell me two things. One, what would you say to your child to prepare him for what's out here? What would you say?
The first thing I will always let my child know, no one's going to love you but yourself. And as a young black man, that's first and foremost that you must learn to respect yourself before you can respect anybody else out here.
Good answer. Second question, how do we come together? Go ahead, sis. How do we come together?
We come together by realizing the real. You understand how things are being taught to us and how we are being treated in general. And because we recognize this and because we know this, we should automatically throw all garbage out the door and come together, because these other minorities are doing it. And
Now,
it's sad that we ask.
Now, my last question for you is the tough one. Do you belong to an organization?
No, I do not belong to no organization.
Sister, you're valuable. You need to belong to an organization. That goes for everybody. Everybody should belong to an organization. Somebody on your block, somebody in your neighborhood. If you don't see an organization you like, start one. Whether it's a social group, religious group, you have to be organized. Kwame Ture said, organize, organize, organize. So, sister, with the great mind you have, that mind should be utilized by some organization, either your own or join one. Because if something was to happen to your child now, who are you going to turn to?
See, that's the thing. I don't want nothing to happen to my child now. That's why I'm on board with you and everybody else whose mind is open for us to do something about it.
Well, sis, strengthen yourself. The smart move, join an organization. If you don't see an organization you like, look a little harder and find something you have like minds, or start your own, because you have to be united with someone somewhere. You can't be a solo act and then we'll see you on TV crying when you asking for help and justice for your loved one, and everybody's gonna just go on about their business. So if you've been going on about your business now and giving love to those in your family, join an organization, sis. That's all I can tell you. Join an organization.
I hear you, but the thing is, where we live, there's so many other minorities, and it's very hard to find an organization. You have to believe, if I knew there was an organization, I would have jumped on it. My mind is very shook. I'm very shook on this, and I think that all our black people need to understand that we are here for one another. And it's very hard for us to find where we can go to seek out to help.
Okay, well, sis, keep listening, stay tuned, and I just wanted you to express yourself. Okay, next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yes, good evening.
Go.
Hello, Brother Mike. How you doing, Brother Mike? I wanted to ask you a question. The Brother Robert Sonny Carson, his birthday was May 22nd. I was wondering, what's your opinion of that brother? You know, I never really heard you.
Sonny Carson?
Any of you brothers talk about him, yes.
Sonny Carson was a strong brother from the street. I think he was a part of Brooklyn Core. I'm almost certain he was part of Brooklyn Core, and certainly Black Men Against Crack. Several things that he did. Knew Sonny Carson for years. Good, strong man. Former gangbanger who turned his life around and started doing productive things in our community. Sonny was a good dude, man. There's no doubt about it. And I saw him counsel young gangbangers. I grew up with many people that East New York from the Black Spades. I always saw him around young men, counseling them, and Zeke in particular, who I grew up with, who was a Tomahawk and Spade. I saw the last time I saw Sonny in the streets, he was with him. No, there's no doubt about it. Good brother.
All right,
strong,
thanks, brother. Have a
strong.
good day.
Yes, sir. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Chelsea. Can you hear me?
Yes, go.
Okay, you know, I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts for a couple of years, and I used to see Cornel West walking around there.
Yes.
You know, he's married to a white woman, and so is Van Jones.
Okay, and my same it applies to them too. If you were a white woman, that already takes your credibility away. How much should we trust you if you go home and sleep white? You can't lead us. And Van Jones is a brilliant brother, and so is Cornel West. But it's all for naught, in my humble opinion.
I have a question.
Quickly, we're about to end.
How come did black men ever make a car, an automobile?
I think that fundamentally, when you look at the black man, if you look at whether it's contributions to the automobile, like self-lubrication, being able to lubricate the real McCoy, you know, that whole thing, or you look at the traffic light and you look at 1,001 things that black men have done in this society, we don't have to just limit it to a car. Black men have been ingenious. Even though they were chains around our hands, our brains were still able to operate, and we did a whole lot of other things. Next caller, quickly to me. You've got last caller. Let's try to get one more in. Go. Hello? Quickly.
Yes. Hi, this is from Westchester.
Oh, good.
Okay. I was just going to say to that mother who called earlier, listen, you can't wait for anybody else to do it. You and the people that you live with, you go to the library, you sit, you bring your children, you do this every day. Instead of sitting in front of the TV with the video games, you have to organize yourself. If you wait for somebody, you might not make it to the next level. That's it. Have a good one.
Oh, boy, good. I'm glad we got our sister, and that's a teacher from Westchester. We're going to have to meet her at some point. We're going to have to meet her. Good sister, always giving good information. And I'm sure that you teach a class, a hell of a class. I'm sure you do. We'll end, as we always do, have some information on CMOTEP, who will be giving a few functions, but that'll be in 2 weeks. So I'll give you the information next week on CMOTEP for the 28th and I think the 29th. But in any event, as always, we want to thank the staff here for all they do. Veronica Kidd, Nat Wood, Sheila Berry. Want to a big thank you to Sister Keisha Forrester for always supplying us from Straight Black Pride. So much information. Go to Blog Talk on Thursday, 7 p.m. to 10. You can catch Keisha Forrester live in full effect. And certainly Sister Filet from the Million Women's Movement, as well as Anna Marie Thomas, another retired teacher. We got to stay strong and not be confused by what's going on. Black man, black woman, protect the black child. Accept your own, be yourself. Stay in it. Take a half second to rest and get right back in the fight. We got to hold the line, because if we not holding the line, ain't nobody going to hold the line for us. Yes, we see them making plans. Trump,